Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pope.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things we're talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Pope. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. We'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. So dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand the truth.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad that you could be here today. So let's jump over to our cosmic weather, see what's going on. So today, the 21st of January, we have a number of different aspects to be aware of. First off, we have our moon sign, like yesterday, in Aquarius. Sun sign is also in Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. So we know that there's going to be whisperings in the wind, because air is the words we speak, the actions we take. Remember, it's all simple, and I just keep repeating the same thing every day because that's all we need to really understand. It's the spirit, God, fire, water, air, earth. And you take from that spirit, that Ein Sof Or of the Kabbalistic system, and you allow that to pour through the tree of life and express itself as fire, ideas. You sprinkle those ideas, you water them with emotions. You then take action and speak words or take some sort of action to bring that into life. And the next step is earth, fire, water, air, earth. So when we look at the astrology, we just consider those same things. We have a sun sign. Sun represents the conscious mind, moon the unconscious. So the sun sign right now has just gone to Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. So an air sign moves. Air is represented by swords. In tarot, air, as I just said, means words and actions. So that's what this time period is about, when our conscious mind is in that area, the words and the actions. We're thinking about things. We're taking actions to do things. We are looking forward, because the time of Aquarius is one of the times that we look forward to the future. You know how we always would look at the age of Aquarius? Well, that's the idea. We're looking forward to these new ideas, fresh ideas. We also have the moon sign. The unconscious mind is still in Aquarius, so we've got double air signs going on. Okay, now some of the aspects to look at in this that are important. Right, we had Uranus right here has jumped into the mix with the moon sign in a sextile early in the morning. Nice, good connection of energy with them. Uranus wants to bring unexpected change. We could see that as the morning progresses, Saturn jumps into the mix to help focus that energy that's going on. And then we have Mercury, who is in conjunction right here. This is kind of like they're in the same place, almost like they're in the same room together. And here we have Mercury in Aquarius. The water bearer and the messenger are together, and they're having a conversation. And then as things move along to the afternoon, here we have the opposition, like the teeter-totter. So you're looking to find balance between these two, hoping that one's not going to jump off. So you got the ideas, the words, and the actions of the Aquarius, and then you have the expansion of Jupiter. So is there enough words to fill the expansion that's going on? And maybe that's what this time is about, finding those words. Because then later this evening, Venus jumps into the mix, and Venus enters the room with Aquarius, the water bearer, and now wants to help bring a new sense of imagination. Let's look at things in a way that how we use our imagination might, take us forward, because we've got a lot of ideas going on today. And that brings us to a void of course moon, which is the last phase of this Aquarian moon cycle, and we don't begin Pisces till tomorrow morning. So the rest of this evening and early part of the morning are all going to be in that void phase. So, as we're sleeping for part of the world, or as we're awake in the other part, we're going to be processing all of that information. And that's, what's really taking place. Now, we've also entered a Mercury retrograde, and this site shows us when those retrogrades are over the course of the year. Right here, the 21st is when it starts today, and it goes all the way through till the 10th or 11th of February. So Mercury retrogrades have different meanings. Here's a site that I like to bring up whenever there's a Mercury retrograde, because they always, this woman, I believe it's a woman, always gives a great feel of what's going on. It says, Mercury retrograde, January 21st, 2015, and the traditional advice is don't travel, don't sign contracts, don't marry, don't touch electrics. But the whole Mercury retrograde cycle actually lasts 8 weeks and happens 3 times, sometimes even 4 times in a year. And that's a long time to hide under the duvet and a real waste of truly magical time. Mercury generally zips between 2 worlds, or rather the 2 hemispheres of our brain. So during the retrograde period, it feels like Mercury has gone down into the underworld, and in this realm, closer to the spirit, we become more right brain oriented. It is dark, so other senses are heightened. We feel extra sensitive here, psychic even. Everything will seem hyper real. You will notice things you have overlooked before. This will prompt you to evaluate, renovate, reform, reinvent. It's true, you might have to redo things because Mercury will hit the same degree 3 times, but what the transit won't let you do is to go into autopilot. There are danger spots when Mercury is stationing retrograde when we are at a wobbly stage. Here we are likely to slip up, make mistakes, and misread others' communication. But once we are over the threshold and into the underworld, we can safely go about our business knowing we are in another realm. The same goes for when Mercury is stationing direct. Just make sure that you give your right brain a few days to adjust back into the solar thinking. The house in the natal chart that Mercury retrogrades in will be your underworld zone. There you will question everything. It will make you jittery about signing contracts because you will constantly be thinking, is this really what I want? Before the retrograde is a good time to finish off those solar left brain projects, gather information, and bring down into your cave at retrograde point. When you can slow things down, let yourself be taken into other dimensions. Try different filters, experiment, shine a light on your demons, and recharge and reboot. So good advice for the retrograde. So we're looking at this time period here, and what she is saying is there's a time where when we first enter, like today, it's that wobbly period. It's just we're going through the dimension door, just like at the end when we go out the door. We just need to stabilize ourselves first in the middle section here. Give ourselves a little time to adjust to that change of going through. And that's basically what she's saying. And let's see here. It said retrograde. Mercury will station retrograde from 17 degrees Aquarius back to 1 degree Aquarius. We start to retrograde in Aquarius Decan 2, which will last from January 21st till the 31st. I call this Decan stately ducks and professional cranes. It gives a cool as cucumber demeanor and an elevated head. The influence can make us literally quite stuck up. However, although still aspirational, the sensitive feelings of this Decan will keep the humanitarian side to Aquarians alive and well, enabling sympathy at this point. Austin Coppock sees Decan as a bridge builder. This is potentially because it is actually ruled by Mercury, the god of messages and commerce. It does really well here. Austin says of Mercury in this Decan that travels yield profitable thoughts, valuable to the rebel and the citizen alike, and that mainstain and the talisman made in this deacon conveys greater importance of thought to the bearer and makes them capable of communicating effectively on a wide range of persons. During this section of the retrograde, we should be able to problem solve with objectivity and be able to translate our findings without adding too much personal bias. As Mercury retrogrades back into Decan 1, we meet what I call the Mad Professor and the Visionary Upgraders. This zone is more prominent and his bold nature, aspirational, focused, and very eccentric, so we might start the retrograde period calmly and diplomatically, but as we move back and start turning over things in our heads, we might find that we're becoming rather more agitated at what we discover. Austin Coppock maintains the figures seen here bear the mark of the eccentric, exile, the rebel, and the pioneer. And the Saturn-Venus ruled deacon is less concerned with opinions of others and far more arcane in thinking. Okay, so there's more to read. You can go and move through that. But the basic idea is Mercury, which is, we don't have the house here, but Mercury here is retrograde from Aquarius. Okay, so Mercury is just telling us that we need to go back and double check our work. Okay, so however you're going to deal with Mercury retrograde, whatever you do, you have it down by now. Today is when it starts. On the Jewish calendar, 1 Shavat is the day. It's the beginning of a new month. We just ended the last one, 29 Tevet. Now we're in the month of Shavat. Still in the same year, 5775. The daily thought is he could have placed street lamps along the pathways of wisdom, but then there would be no journey. Who would discover the secret passages, the hidden treasures, if all of us took the King's Highway? Good point. Sometimes the journeys in life are necessary for us to grow and learn. That's the whole idea of why we're here, to grow and learn. The moon, as we could see, is just a little sliver past the new moon. It's a waxing moon, which means we're going to go back up now. So for those who are following the moon cycles, this is the beginning cycle, so you want to go with the flow, start moving forward with your ideas, what you're doing. Take into account the Mercury retrograde that's starting, that there's a communication bubble in the air, so to speak, and we just want to make sure that as we're navigating, that even though we may be thinking clearly, that the people we're communicating with are also thinking as clear. So we want to be aware of that. Solar wind, 373.3 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is still quiet, between 1 and a 2. We've got the two big coronal holes, one at the bottom, little one up at the top, though when I say little, they're quite large, bigger than the Earth. And we have a notice here that still from the 23rd to the 25th, we may be hit with some solar wind coming off of there. M-class flare possibility still the same, 5%. X-class 1. Geomagnetic storm activity, 20% mid-latitudes, 25 high, so nothing really out of the normal there. And sky-wise, look low to the west shortly after sunset for the thin crescent moon forming a triangle with Venus and the further Mercury as shown above. Okay, so we see the moon. We got Mercury right here. Venus just off to the left. And way up here is Mars. So these almost are kind of getting into some sort of an alignment. And there you go. That's our cosmic weather. That's what we're dealing with today. So as you go out and about in the world, just plan accordingly. UFO News is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
Thank you very much, Dirk Bradshaw. All right, we're going to go first off up to Mars. Mars always has activity going on. We know there's something up there. Here is a Christian star, or an Egyptian cross, excuse me, an Ankh. You see, there it is right there, a good shot of it. Again, coming from JPL Photos. Cross was found by YouTube UFO researcher Mars Moon Space. Photo Zoom Club, it shows a cross at the top of the rock area. This cross does resemble an Ankh of the ancient Egypt, also known as the Breath of Life, the Key of the Nile, and the cross with the handle. The cross stands out greatly from its environment with evenly rounded sides. Alright, so there you go. That's the cross, the Ankh on Mars. Moving from there, we're going to go up to the sun. UFO moves at incredible speed in sun photo. Objects in question, nice good long UFO. Says this UFO was caught by Mina Hansen 74 of YouTube researcher who focuses on the sun photos and posts some amazing catches. Here, he has caught a giant rod near our sun. This may not be a rod, but incredibly fast ship that was caught moving in incredible speeds. What I mean is that when Minhensen 74 changes the color to black and white, we see an individual craft, round and reflective. I believe that what this is, a single round craft moving perhaps at the speed of light. Alright? It's very good. Check that out. The link's available at First Contact Radio. Here we have orbs over Sydney. This is this new video of a UFO orb flying across the sky above Sydney. This happened on the 20th of January. So no other descriptions other than that in itself. 3-minute 56 second video. There we go. Right up here. Alright, that's over Australia. UFO disclosure advocate to play a major role in Hillary Clinton's election. An advocate of freedom and information, John Podesta, has said that it is now time for full disclosure of everything, including the existence of space aliens. The Wall Street Journal said John Podesta, who serves as senior White House aide, may resign and join the election campaign of Hillary Clinton. Mr. Podesta's role in the Clinton campaign remains unclear. The Journal reported people with inside access to the discussion said he likely would get the role of a campaign chairman should Hillary decide to run. In 1993, Podesta called Republican killer Cubis, and here we go. It said UFO and extraterrestrial enthusiasts will be most interested in Podesta's suggestion that authorities should impart their knowledge about extraterrestrials to the public if they have any proof. Speaking at a press conference in 2002, he asked the government to declassify any UFO information. Alright, so very interesting. Remember the tricks in politics, so just because somebody's doing something like that doesn't necessarily mean anything, other than it might be a political move. Did these radio bursts originate from intelligent beings light years from Earth? On a graph, they look like detonations. Scientists call them fast radio bursts, or FRBs, mysterious and strong pulses of radio waves that seemingly emanate far out in the Milky Way. From the Milky Way. The bursts are rare. They normally last for only about a millisecond. In a first, researchers in Australia say they've observed one in real time. NPR's Joe Palaka reports the giant Parkes radio telescope in southeastern Australia detected the burst on May 14th last year. Within hours of the discovery, 12 different telescopes both on Earth and in space were pointed in the direction of the burst, but none recorded any unusual activity. Most of the events that astronomers know about that could cause a burst of radio waves, such as an exploding star, would continue to give off light or X-rays or gamma rays for some times. Finding nothing only deepens the mystery about what's behind the burst. Details of the findings appear in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The first of these cosmic outbursts was detected fairly recently in 2007. Last year, a radio telescope in Puerto Rico detected the same brief and powerful waves the Parkes facility had reported earlier. Calling fast radio bursts tantalizing mysteries of the radio sky, the more than 30 researchers who took part in the study say they found the last May's FRB during a campaign to reobserve known FRB fields. But while the scientists note that the recent FRB was detected close to a previously discovered phenomenon, they concluded that the two are distinct objects. This is a major breakthrough. Duncan Lorimer of West Virginia University tells New Scientist Lorimer was part of a team that uncovered the 2007 signal. He also argued that it came from beyond our galaxy. So there's more to the article. I'm going to leave that to you, but perhaps we're getting the signs. Just kind of like, almost seems like the movie Contact, huh? Here's an article. It talks about the top 10 states with the most UFO sightings. This comes from the National UFO Reporting Center. Here they are. California is number 1 on top of that list. 11,092. These are from the 1950s through 2015. Florida is second with 5,017. Washington 4,951. Texas 4,313, followed by New York, Illinois, Arizona, Ohio, Michigan, and North Carolina. Okay, nice little graph to look at there. And last, here's a story deals with presidents and UFOs, something that we certainly have heard about taking place here in the past. So this article is called America's Spiritual Destiny from UFOs to the Prophecies of the Presidents. I've written here previously about a new book from Tim Beckley's Inner Light Gold Communication Publishing House called America's Strange and Supernatural History, which recounts numerous little-known paranormal and simply weird moments in the life of the nation. Everything from the survival cannibalism that took place one savage winter in the American colony of Jamestown to the mid-20th century spree of the disgruntled chemistry student dubbed the Mad Gasser, who used an aerosol anesthetic as a weapon, to the 18th century shape-shifting werewolf-type transformation of those foolish enough to have broken Lent 7 years in a row in the French enclave of Vincennes, Indiana, are part of the heritage of the United States. The bulk of the first section of America's Strange and Supernatural History was written by Tim Schwartz, but also included the contributions of William Michael Mott, Olaf Phillips, Tim Beckley, and in the interest of full disclosure, myself. It is the second section of the new release that concerns us here, a reprint of the rare but often referred to Prophecies of the Presidents, the Spiritual Destiny of America Revealed, by the aforementioned Tim Beckley and his late co-author, Arthur Crockett. The authors make us aware that not only did former presidents have contacts with the divine, they were also cognizant of their predestined place in history and readily accepted guidance and help from above. So the presidents have also had their share of UFO contact, along with matters more directly occult. The fact that Jimmy Carter saw a UFO in October '69 and stated so publicly in '73 is generally known among UFO enthusiasts, as is Carter's unfulfilled campaign promise to unlock the government's secret files and open the subject to public scrutiny. Alright, a lot more to the article going into the various presidents, but I'm going to leave that for you because it's a great study when you're looking for something to do later on. In the meantime, I am going to jump away. I'll be back. Stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Great Spirit, send down your love, send down your love.
continue. So, we're going to move on with the research. We've looked at Revelation, we looked at Daniel, we've looked in other things throughout the Bible. But as I said yesterday, we're going to put the Bible on so that we can continue our study in a deeper fashion. The reason I say in a deeper fashion is because the Bible itself is a book that has been edited. And the book has been edited by those who had political reasons for changing things. History is shown this. These are some of the things that are going to be brought up now and talked about. Because I find that myself, I'm interested in conspiracy theories, as you know, and I've done many shows about conspiracy theories. But it's just come to a point that these things that are happening in life, they're just the same story another day. So it seems pointless. However, looking at the way in which writers and those in charge of the spiritual growth of this world have manipulated the information really kind of points out that the greatest conspiracy that there is the conspiracy to hide the true aspect of God from everyone. And so that's the journey to go and discover that. And it's not going to be discovered in the Bible because the Bible is the edited down version of what really happened. I told you yesterday a bit about Moses and that story, and that's a story that's documented. Manetho was one of the scribes in Egypt, wrote this account down, as he listed many other things about the history of Egypt at that time. And so there's a flaw in the system that the story that we're being told and spoon-fed and learned to believe is inaccurate. And as we go through these days and these readings, and I'll point you to articles and places, you'll start to see more and more how this occurred. So the Nag Hammadi Library is a source we're going to start with. Yesterday I gave you a little introduction to the Nag Hammadi Library. Here's the first page that we went about. I'm going to jump over into the first link here called the introduction. And what we have here is an excerpt from the Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagels. Let me read a little bit of this here. It starts off with, in December 1945, an Arab peasant made an astonishing archaeological discovery in Upper Egypt. Rumors obscured the circumstances of the find, perhaps because the discovery was accidental and a sale in the black market illegal. For years, even the identity of the discoverer remained unknown. Okay, so this just gives a brief, and then it goes into the long story about who found it and, all the other little details. But here's where it gets interesting, where we're going to pick up. Sold on the black market through antiquities dealers in Cairo, the manuscripts soon attracted the attention of officials of the Egyptian government. Through circumstances of high drama, as we shall see, they bought one and then confiscated 10 and a half of the 13 leather-bound books called codices and deposited them in the Coptic Museum in Cairo. But a large part of the 13th Codex, containing 5 extraordinary texts, was smuggled out of Egypt and offered for sale in America. Word of the Codex soon reached Professor Gilles Quispel, distinguished historian of religion at Utrecht in the Netherlands. Excited by the discovery, Quispel urged the Young Foundation in Zurich to buy the Codex. But discovering when he had succeeded that some pages were missing, he flew to Egypt in the spring of 1955 to try to find them in the Coptic Museum. Arriving in Cairo, he went at once to the Coptic Museum, borrowed photographs from some of the texts, and hurried back to his hotel to decipher them. Tracing out the first line, Quispel was startled, then incredulous to read. These are the secret words which the living Jesus spoke, and which the twin, Judas Thomas, wrote down. Quispel knew that his colleague, H.C. Puech, using notes from another French scholar, Jean Dorse, had identified the opening lines with a fragment of the Gospel of Thomas discovered in the 1890s. But discovery of the whole text raised new questions. Did Jesus have a twin brother, as this image implies? Could the text be an authentic record of Jesus' sayings? According to its title, it contained the Gospel according to Thomas. Yet, unlike the Gospels of the New Testament, this text identified itself as a secret gospel. Quispel also discovered that it contained many sayings known from the New Testament, but these sayings, placed in unfamiliar context, suggested other dimensions of meaning. Other passages Quispel found differed entirely from the known Christian tradition. The living Jesus, for example, speaks in sayings as cryptic and compelling as Zen koans. Jesus said, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." What Quispel held in his hands, the Gospel of Thomas, was only one of the 52 texts discovered at Nag Hammadi. Bound, which is in Nag Hammadi is the usual English transliteration of the town's name. Bound into the same volume with it is the Gospel of Philip, which attributes to Jesus acts and sayings quite different from those in the New Testament. Here's a quote from it. "The companion of the Savior is Mary Magdalene, but Christ loved her more than all of the disciples and used to kiss her often on the mouth. The rest of the disciples were offended. They said to him, 'Why do you love her more than all of us?' The Savior answered and said to them, 'Why do I not love you as I love her?'" Other sayings in this collection criticize common Christian beliefs such as the virgin birth or the bodily resurrection as naive misunderstandings. Bound together with these Gospels is the Apocryphon, literally secret book of John, which opens with an offer to reveal the mysteries and the hidden things hidden in silence, which Jesus taught to his disciple John. Muhammad Ali, who was one of the gentlemen who was the finder of this book, not Muhammad Ali the fighter, but the gentleman, the Arab who found this, later admitted that some of the texts were lost, burned, or thrown away. What remains astonishing, some 52 texts from the early Christian centuries era, including a collection of the early Christian Gospels previously unknown. Beside the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Philip, they find included the Gospel of Truth and the Gospel to the Egyptians, which identifies itself as the sacred book of the great invisible Spirit. And a group of texts consist of writings attributed to Jesus' followers, such as the secret book of James, the Apocalypse of Paul, the letter of Peter and Philip, and the Apocalypse of Peter. When Muhammad Ali discovered at Nag Hammadi, soon became clear were Coptic translations of about 1500 years ago of still more ancient manuscripts. The originals themselves had been written in Greek, the language of the New Testament, as Doris, Punch, and Quispel had recognized. Part of one of them had been discovered by archaeologists about 50 years earlier when they found a few fragments of the original Greek version of the Gospel of Thomas. So this is the basics of what's in here. You can go through and read a lot more to this, but I want to get to the point of, what this is. So we're going to move on. This is a section here which is called What is Gnosticism? Since we're going to move on and look at that area now. An Introduction to Gnosticism and the Nag Hammadi Library. What is Gnosticism? Gnosis and Gnosticism or Gnosticism are still rather arcane terms, though in the last 2 decades they have been increasingly encountered in the vocabulary of contemporary society. The word gnosis derives from Greek and connotates knowledge or the act of knowing. On first hearing, it is sometimes confused with another more common term of the same root, but of opposite sense, which is agnostic, literally not knowing. The Greek language differentiates between rational, propositional knowledge and a distinct form of knowing obtained by experience or perception. It is this later knowledge, gained from interior comprehension and personal experience, that constitutes gnosis. In the first century of the Christian era, the term Gnostic came to denote a heterodox segment of the diverse new Christian community. Among early followers of Christ, it appears that there were groups who delineate themselves from the greater household of the church by claiming not simply a belief in Christ and his message, but a special witness or a revelatory experience of the divine. It was this experience or gnosis that set the true follower of Christ apart, so they asserted. Stephen Haller explains that these Christians held a conviction that direct, personal, and absolute knowledge of the authentic truths of existence is accessible to human beings, and moreover, that the attainment of such knowledge must always constitute the supreme achievement of human life. What the authentic rules of existence affirmed by the Gnostics will be briefly reviewed below, but first a historical account of the early church might be useful. In the initial century and a half of Christianity, the period that we find first mention of the Gnostic Christians, no single acceptable format of Christian thought had yet been defined. During this formative period, Gnosticism was one of the more current, waving within the deep waters of the new religion. The ultimate course Christianity and Western culture with it would take was undecided at this early moment. Gnosticism was one of the seminal influences shaping that destiny. That Gnosticism was, at least briefly, in the mainstream of Christianity is witnessed by the fact that one of its most influential teachers, Valentinius, may have been in consideration during the mid-2nd century for election as the Bishop of Rome. Born in Alexandria around 100 CE, Valentinius distinguishes himself at an early age as an extraordinary teacher and a leader in the highly educated and diverse Alexandrian Christian community. In midlife, he migrated from Alexandria to the church's evolving capital, Rome, where he played an active role in the public affairs of the church. A prime characteristic of Gnostics was their claim to be keepers of sacred traditions, gospels, rituals, and successions. Esoteric matters, for that matter. Many Christians were either not properly prepared or simply not inclined. Valentinius, true to the Gnostic predilection, apparently professed to have received a special apostolic sanction through the Thaddeus, a disciple and initiate in the Apostle Paul, and to be the custodian of the doctrines and rituals neglected by what would become Christian orthodoxy. Though an influential member of the Roman Church in the second mid-century, by the end of his life, Valentinius had been forced from the public eye and branded a heretic by the developing Orthodoxy Church. While the historical and theological details are far too complex for the proper explanation here, the tide of history can be said to have been turned against Gnosticism in the middle of the 2nd century. No Gnostic after Valentinius would ever come so near prominence in the great church. Gnosticism's emphasis on personal experience, its continuing revelations and production of new scripture, its asceticism, and paradoxically contrasting libertine postures are all met with increasing suspicion. By 180 CE, Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyon, was publishing his first attacks on Gnosticism as heresy, a labor that would be continued with measuring vehemence by the Church Fathers throughout the next century. Orthodoxy Christianity was deeply and profoundly influenced by its struggles with Gnosticism in the 2nd and the 3rd centuries. Formulations of many central thoughts in Christian theology came as reflections and shadows of this confrontation with the Gnosis. But in the end of the 4th century, the struggle was essentially over. The evolving ecclesia had added the force of political correctness to dogmatic denunciation, and with its sword, so-called heresy was painfully cut from the Christian body. Gnosticism as a Christian tradition was largely eradicated, its remaining readers ostracized, and its sacred books destroyed. All that remained for students seeking to understand Gnosticism in the later centuries were the denunciations and fragments preserved in the patristic heresiologies, or at least so it seemed until the mid-20th century. It was on a December day in the year 1945, near the town of Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, that the course of Gnostic studies was radically renewed and forever changed. An Arab peasant, digging around a boulder in search of fertilizer for his field, happened upon an old, rather large, red earthenware jar. Hoping he found a buried treasure, and with due hesitation apprehension about the jinn who might attend such a hoard, he smashed the jar open. Inside he discovered no treasure and no genie, but instead books, more than a dozen old codices bound in golden leather. Little did he realize what he had found was an extraordinary collection of ancient texts and manuscripts hidden a millennia and a half before, probably by monks from the nearby monastery of St. Pachomius, seeking to preserve them from a destruction ordered by the Church as part of its violent expurging of heterodoxy and heresy. Now the Nag Hammadi manuscripts eventually passed into the scholarly hands is a fascinating story, too lengthy to relate here, but today, now we're 50 years since being unearthed, and more than 2 decades after the final translation and publication in English as the Nag Hammadi Library, their importance has become astoundingly clear. These 13 papyrus codices, containing 52 sacred texts, are representative of the long-lost Gnostic Gospels, a last extent of what Orthodox Christianity perceived to be its most dangerous and insidious challenge, the feared opponent of the Church. Fathers had reviled under many different names, and most commonly as Gnosticism. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi text has fundamentally revised our understanding of both Gnosticism and the early Christian Church. So, let me continue on here. It says, overview of the Gnostic teachings. What was it in these knowers knew? What made them so dangerous heretics? The complexities of Gnosticism are legion, making any generalizations wisely unsuspect. While several systems for defining and categorizing Gnosticism have been portrayed over the years, none has gained any general acceptance. So with advance warning that this is most certainly not a definitive summary of Gnosticism and its many permutations, we will outline just 4 elements generally agreed to be characteristic of Gnostic thought. The first characteristic was introduced above. Gnosticism asserts that direct, personal, and absolute knowledge of the authentic truth of existence is accessible to human beings, and the attainment of such knowledge is the supreme achievement of human life. Gnosis is not a rational, propositional, logical understanding, but a knowing acquired by experience. The Gnostics were not much interested in dogma or coherent rational theology. A fact makes the study that Gnosticism particularly difficult for individuals with bookkeeper mentalities. One simply cannot cipher up Gnosticism into soliloquic dogmatic affirmations. The Gnostics cherished the ongoing force of divine revelation. Gnosis was the creative experience of revelation, a rushing progression of understanding and not a static creed. Carl Gustav Jung, the great Swiss psychologist and a lifelong student of Gnosticism in its various historical permutations, affirms that we find in Gnosticism what was lacking in the centuries that followed, a belief in the efficacy of individual revelation and individual knowledge. This belief was rooted in the proud feelings of man's affinity with the gods. Okay, it goes on and has some nice quotes here. Let's see the second. Where's the second one here? Looking for the. We have the first one here is the belief there. Well, it says this brings us to the third prominent element in our belief, and that its reference of Gnosticism is reference for text and scriptures unaccepted by the Orthodox fold. Gnostic experience was myopathic in story and metaphor, and perhaps also in ritual enactments. Gnosticism sought expression of subtle visionary insights inexpressible by rational proposition or dogmatic affirmations. For Gnostics, revelation was the nature of gnosis. And the fourth characteristic that we must delineate to understand classical Gnosticism is the most difficult of the 4 to untangle, and also one of the most disturbing to subsect. This is the image of God as the dyad or duality. While affirming the ultimate unity and integrity with the divine, Gnosticism noted in this experimental encounter with the numerous contrasting manifestation and qualities. In other words, male and female. Gnostics honored the feminine nature and in reflection. So that is the basics of what is going on here. There's a lot more for you to read. But this is just the introduction. I want to start getting into the actual text, and we'll start with that tomorrow. But you could see the belief. They believe that everybody could speak with the divine, with the creator. Didn't need an intermediary. That scared the churches because the churches wanted what? They have an intermediary. You got to go talk to the priest. You can't just talk to God. That's what this Gnosticism didn't believe this. And they believed that God was male and female. And that has been taken out. As we read through the Bible, we could see not only has the female aspect of God been taken out, but you see passages after passages where men are talking about women as if they are these horrible creatures. Yet that line of thinking is quite the opposite when we get through these different texts, you'll see. So this is what's here. I would encourage you to go through and read the rest of this. Read through it again a couple times maybe to understand. And tomorrow we're going to jump into some of these other texts, and we're going to just start the journey. Okay? So there's our introduction. Let me pull up here an article in 5D. It's called What is Awakening? Eckhart Tolle, What is Awakening? It says, since ancient times, the term awakening has been used as a kind of metaphor that points to the transformation of human consciousness. There are parallels in the New Testament that speak of the importance of being awake, of not falling back to sleep. The word Buddha comes from the Sanskrit word Bud, meaning to be awake. So Buddha is not a name and ultimately not a person, but a state of consciousness. All this implies that humans are potentially capable of living in this state of consciousness compared to which normal wakefulness is like sleeping or dreaming. This is why some spiritual teachings use terms like shared hallucination or universal hypnotism to describe normal human existence. Pick up any book, and I suggest you will begin to study the 20th century. You will find a large part of history of our species as all the characteristics we would normally associate with a nightmare or an insane hallucination. The nature of spiritual awakening is frequently misunderstood. The adoption of spiritual beliefs, seeing visions of God or celestial beings, the ability to channel, to heal, to foretell the future, or other paranormal powers. All such phenomena are of value and are not to be dismissed, but none of them is in itself indicative of spiritual awakening. In a person who experiences them, they may occur in a person who is not awakened spiritually, and they may or may not accompany the awakened state. Every morning we awaken from sleep and from our dreams we enter the state we call wakefulness, a continuous stream of thoughts, most of them repetitive, characterizes the normal wakeful state. So what is it that we awaken from when spiritual awakening occurs? We awaken from identification with our thoughts. Everybody who is not aware spiritually is totally identified with and run by the thinking mind, the incessant voice in the head. Thinking is compulsive. You can't stop, or it seems, so it's addictive. You don't even want to stop, at least not until the suffering generated by the continuous mental noise becomes unbearable. In the unawakened state, you don't use thought, but thought uses you. You are, one could almost say, possessed by thought, which is the collective conditioning of the human mind that goes back many thousands of years. You don't see anything as it is, but distorted and reduced by mental labels, concepts, judgments, opinions, and reactive patterns. Your sense's identity of self reduced to a story and kept telling yourself in your head. So does this mean that you don't think anymore when you awaken spiritually? No, of course not. In fact, you can use your thought much more effectively than before, but you realize there is a depth to your being, a vibrantly alive stillness, and that is much vaster than any thought in consciousness itself, which is the thinking mind. Okay. So I skipped through some of this, but basically it's just saying the same things over and over and over again. And they are real simple. And this is the message that you will find that comes out of all of these passages and readings and texts that we're going to be exploring from the Nag Hammadi. And that's, Jesus was here to teach us that we fell into a state of ignorance and way back when, and because of that we became ignorant of our own divinity. And that's simple. And that's the whole gist of it. So Jesus simply was one of many teachers who have come back here to show us how to remember our divinity. And that's it. So all of these things that we're reading, they all tie into the same thing. That we are remembering that we are connected to divinity. And the big problem in life with the whole Lucifer devil thing is simply an evolution of part of that consciousness believing that it was bigger than its creator. And that was ultimate ignorance. But all ignorance ultimately becomes wisdom as we understand and we become humbled to what occurred. So even though we've become ignorant at times about what's going on, we all have the ability to learn. And we're all seeing that and remembering that we are connected to the divine, God, Mother and Father God. They're all one and the same. That is what the duality that was just discussed and mentioned. So as we go through, you'll see that over and over. Mother and Father God. It's not just one, it's both. It's different than what the Bible is talking about, because the Bible cut that out. The Bible cut that out. The men, the priests, the priesthood became threatened because, again, man can't bring life into the world like a woman can. And so men became afraid. And so the societies became very patriarchal. They just started cutting out the women because that didn't serve their agenda. And there's many examples that you'll see and as we read through. Anyway, I'm just rambling. I'm going to continue on. Here's a channeled message for today. This comes from the Council. Here we go.
The Council. What will you do when you know?
Channeled by Ronald Head. January 20th, 2015.
The Council.
Change is our topic for today. You are living in a time of great change. You have been hearing that for quite some time. You are living in the only moment in which change can be made. That is also something you should be familiar with. You cannot make any change in the future, nor can you make any in the past. The only moment you can change is this one, the present, and in so doing you will alter all future possibilities. You may also alter the effects of the past. We would point out, however, that the only change which we counsel you on is the change that you can make within yourselves. You may have some idea of the importance of that, but we assure you that your ability to foresee the vast reach that your personal changes will have upon the future and the extent of the effect upon the entire universe is beyond your understanding. Even upon your world and within your society, there is no way for you to see the effects your smallest action will have in its ripple effect upon persons you have not and may never meet. You discuss this at times, but have you truly taken it on board, as you say? That should be enough to motivate you in your day-to-day activity and thought. But consider also that there is no way for you to understand what effect the slightest improvements you may make within yourselves will have upon the future selves you are becoming. You will become someone with whom you are not in least familiar, someone beyond your experience. A slight change in attitude, in your way of perceiving, of reacting, and above all, in your beliefs about yourselves, will radically change your future. In fact, it is the only thing that can do so. So, as we have told you recently, our recommendation to you would be that you spare no effort in finding out who the true self is that you are beneath and behind all the little beliefs you have been taught to accept about yourselves. Who are you, really? What is it within you that is real, permanent, unchanging? How will you find that? What will you do when you know? It is not something that you need to become. It is something that you are and that you have not yet seen nor felt. That is the true quest. That is your true purpose. And that, once found, will change your world. It is clamoring to be heard now. It is closer than ever. Listen, feel, and know.
All right, very nice message. Brings us to our meditation. So let's Warrior of the Light message first. Warrior of the Light knows that no one is stupid and that life teaches everyone however long it may take. He always does his best and expects the best of others. Through his generosity, he tries to show each person how much they are capable of achieving. Some of his companions say, "Some people are so ungrateful." The warrior is not discouraged by this, and he continues to encourage other people because this is the way of encouraging himself. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. Take another deep breath. Exhale again. Now, I want you to imagine yourself walking down a beach. And you walk down this beach and you see a cave. And you enter the cave and you walk deeper into it, and it's dark, so you find a light. And you move forward into the cave, into the darkness. And you've got your light, and you find a chest in the cave. And you take a good look at the chest. And make sure you don't see anything on it that might be a trap. And then you slowly open the chest. And you open the chest, and inside you see a great treasure. And the treasure is wisdom. And as it comes out of the chest, this wisdom, the spirit of wisdom, just enters your being. And you feel different. And so you walk out of the cave, seeing through new eyes, seeing the world through the eyes of wisdom. And everything you look at looks the same, but also looks different. And you find that with this wisdom comes compassion. Because the wisdom in which you now see the world allows you to have compassion for things that are having challenges. And so you find as you walk through the world, this wisdom has allowed you to be compassionate and humble. And in your compassion and humility, others notice that you shine brighter. You feel calm and relaxed. And as you continue to walk on, and others are attracted to the light that you're shining, you simply send out positive vibes of energy to all of them. And as you do, you can see the energy passed on, and they start to experience this feeling of wisdom and compassion and humility in all the others. So as you walk through life today, just imagine walking with wisdom and seeing the world through the eyes of wisdom. And just feeling what that is like. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey, walking with wisdom, and let's bring our conscious mind up to the present moment in this world. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's our show for today. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you take a chance and an opportunity to go through and read some of this other material, a little bit more of what we were going over today, the introductions, a little bit more of Elaine Pagels' excerpts from the Gnostic Gospels, and tomorrow we're going to jump right in. Not sure which one we're going to start with, but we're just going to jump right in tomorrow, and you're going to begin to see and understand that there's a deeper level of information available to us. And, well, we're going to hit it. So walk in wisdom today, my friends. I love you. Keep loving each other. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.